Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, March 1st. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5. I am Dan Rubin, joined as always on Thursdays by 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Steve, we are paying now for those sunny days here in the Midwest. It's gray and overcast, as it is wont to be. How goes it?
53 and wet, so sending that your way if that's not what it is right now, brother.
It's close. We're getting there. Speaking of getting there, we are educating ourselves on the class of 2019. Signing day is gathering distance in the rearview mirror, and we are trying to familiarize ourselves with the next crop of fantastic Buckeyes. So I thought what we do today is we're going to go in inverse chronological order. The 13 players Steve Wiltfong currently has crystal balled to Ohio State. This is the group of dudes you want to start really focusing in on. Obviously, we know that down the stretch there will be names that Matthew Baldwin's of the world that you won't see coming, that will be big parts of this class, but the nucleus is still being worked on, and these are the names you got to really get familiar with. So the most recent crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong, Braden Liebrock, tight end out of Arizona.
Well, that one's a projection pick in the sense that Braden told me Ohio State's recruiting him the hardest, and he is going to come out and check out Columbus this spring. Tight end remains a need for Ohio State. They have Jeremy Ruckert, but when you look at the depth chart, I don't know how excited you are beyond Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is going to be a day one starter. And I actually think he's going to be a three-and-done type guy in Columbus. They need to add some depth around Ruckert, and Braden Liebrock is one of the more exciting pass-catching tight ends in the country. The question will be, does he check all the boxes for Ohio State? And we'll see when he comes in on his visit. But right now, Ohio State's only recruiting a couple tight ends hellaciously, and he's one of them. And they'll be excited to get him to campus. And he's a guy that we just minted as a 4-star recruit after I saw him in Las Vegas. And Notre Dame's in there, Arizona State's in there. Not a done deal to Ohio State. Ohio State's out recruiting everybody right now, or at least they're recruiting them harder. I don't know if out recruiting is the right word. They're giving him the most love and attention, led by Kevin Wilson. And when Ohio State does that, typically they get their guy.
Like you said, I think Jeremy Ruckert's play this year will make tight end recruiting a lot easier. This one I really liked. Back to DeMatha, home of Chase Young and many other fine athletes from the DMV. Nick Cross, a nice-sized safety.
Yeah, I put that pick in recently after talking to Nick, Ohio State. Guess what? Recruiting Nick Cross, the hardest out of DeMatha. I spent some time at DeMatha back in the fall. The head coach there told me that Urban Meyer, James Franklin, some of the more impressive head coaches that he's met and talked to, and those guys just recruit kids right and do a good job. And right now, I think Ohio State's doing a terrific job with Nick Cross. So here's the caveat with Nick, though, is I don't think his parents are all that in tune with football. And so schools like Notre Dame and places like that are going to have a great shot at him as well. He's a high academic kid at a school that's a high academic high school place. So I think don't rule out those schools either. But I like Ohio State as it stands right now for Nick Cross, who is a hard-hitting safety from one of the country's best high school programs.
Yeah, everyone knows I geek out about the DMV, proud of my roots. There's no one who would even argue with this in the DMV. DeMatha is the best athletic high school in D.C. in every sport across the board. So you're getting a guy with tremendous pedigree. Another guy from the East who sounds like he might even have his dorm assignment, Ronnie Hickman, athlete out of New Jersey.
Ronnie Hickman on his last visit spent a lot of time with Jordan Fuller and the players on the team. He's been there quite a bit. I think that Ohio State is far and away the leader for Ronnie Hickman, and something drastic would have to happen for him not to end up in Columbus. There was a time where Penn State was far and away the leader for Tyreek Smith, and he went to Ohio State. So you don't count them till they sign, but you definitely like Ohio State's chances with Ronnie Hickman right now.
Yeah, feel real good about that one. Another athlete, this one a little bit bigger, 6'3" Milton Wright.
Yeah, so talking to his coach a couple weeks ago, I got the sense that Ohio State is in the driver's seat for Milton Wright. who has great speed. He's a track kid that's also a playmaker on the football field. He's been the camp at Ohio State before, and the Buckeyes are pushing the right buttons early. Georgia, one of the recent offers, certainly intriguing for Milton Wright, but like Ohio State right now.
Yeah, Milton Wright's one of those traits guy. 6'3", runs like the wind. You just get him on the roster. They list him as an athlete right now. That's a compliment, I think, to his expected athletic versatility. Another guy who I will be really, really surprised if he's not a Buckeye, Ryan Jacoby, offensive tackle out of Mentor. In-stater.
I mean, I don't have any insight to add there other than the obvious.
Yep, that should be a done deal, barring an earthquake of magnitude that would probably end this podcast. And this is becoming a trend. St. Louis wide receivers. What's the deal with Jamison Williams? Another one?
Well, I think that Ohio State was one of the first high schools to really recruit Jamison Williams hard. He's a 10.5 kid in the 100-meter dash as a sophomore. High upside kid, really skinny right now, but he's going to fill out. And obviously he can run, and had like 39 catches and 17 touchdowns as a junior. I know I'm a hair off, but you get the point. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. The family loves Urban Meyer too. But here's the deal. He's been to Alabama a couple times, including over the weekend, and Alabama is right there with Ohio State. So my crystal ball is on Ohio State going back to the fall when I visited Jamison at his school. But Alabama, they're in it, and Ohio State's going to have to battle.
That is interesting, though, for a guy, in air quotes, skinny guy that Ohio State and Alabama are dueling for, in Missouri. So that leaves me to Jamison Williams. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, the kid that caught the game-winning touchdown in the national championship game, Devontae Smith for Alabama, very skinny coming out. But strength programs like Alabama and Ohio State, they're going to get it out of them. I mean, there was a time where I was a noodle, and then, you put some muscle on with some work. Those guys are going to get nutrition plans and some of the best strength coach access to two of the best strength programs in the country. He's not going to be skinny for long, and Devontae Smith's not going to be skinny for long.
If anyone would have seen your wife, they would have asked if you're on the juice, dude. So it's clearly you had some artificial help there. Impressive, though. Definitely a guy. Alabama and Ohio State are battling for him. I think it's fair to assume that his future is bright. Now, here's a guy we talked about in the past. Because of my angst with Rod Smith, I probably let that bleed into my evaluation of Samson James, a running back out of Indiana. Did go back and watch his tape again. He's an impressive dude.
Yeah, and he's at the top of the board for Ohio State with a couple other backs that are considered elite. Samson James is an elite back in Ohio State's football facility. We've talked about that before. Urban Meyer's already been in Indianapolis to check in on him and a couple other guys, so he's a priority. Tony Alford's been here a few times, so they love the kid. I think Ohio State has the edge, but Notre Dame is in there and intriguing for him. Indiana and Purdue have really good running back recruiters right now and are doing a good job recruiting him as well. The strength coach at Indiana has ties to his high school as well. Was the strength coach at IMG, then was the assistant strength coach at Notre Dame last year. Now he's the main guy at Indiana as the strength coach. So those relationships are helping Indiana. And then Purdue, Jeff Brom's really kind of a stud, guys. He really works at it from every angle. And when you talk to him once, you get the vibe that you're talking to someone that's on it and important. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to go to Indiana or Purdue over Ohio State or Notre Dame, but I'm not ruling it out either. I do like Ohio State. I think Ohio State has the edge, but just wanted to give the Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners particularly some insight on Jeff Brom. He's an impressive man.
Also, I have to say, Samson James, one of the better names for a running back that you're going to get. If Netflix started a sequel to Friday Night Lights and the main running back was Samson James, you'd be like, that makes sense. Great name. Great player. Darnell Wright does seem to be the tackle. Huge dude out of West Virginia. Your blind side kind of prototype. Very good crystal ball flow for the Buckeyes, though.
Yeah, I'm one of them, as obviously we were talking about him. He's the number one offensive tackle in the country per the 24/7 Sports composite, and Ohio State's doing the best job with him early. Clemson,
how would you compare him to Nicholas Petit-Frere?
Well, I think Petit-Frere's ceiling is higher. I mean, you look at our rankings. I mean, we have Darnell in an elite spot, but we had Petit-Frere as the number one offensive tackle. I think Darnell is number 3 for us, but still love him. I mean, you recruit the hell out of him. But if you're asking me to compare those two, I mean, Petit-Frere, he is just a unique human being. And theoretically could have been our number one player, and I wouldn't have had a problem with it. If we would have sat around and said, you guys want to rank Nicholas Petit-Frere number 1, I don't think anyone would have said that's blasphemous. You know, offensive tackles go 1 in the draft. Sure. But with Darnell Wright, I think Ohio State, he's been there. They're doing a good job recruiting him. He wants to play on that kind of stage. The recruiting battle for Darnell Wright, in my opinion, is going to be the mega powers of college football. And so Ohio State's going to be right there in there, and I think they have a head start.
Now, another guy who very likely has put a down payment on his freshman year meal plan, Noah Potter, defensive end out of Mentor.
Same thing. I mean, I guess the only thing that could change it is if those guys are like the Tommy Kramer, Liam Eichenbergs of the world, right? And they're just destined to go. If they're destined to go to a place like Notre Dame, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I know their families that well because I don't right now, but that would be the one. Those would be that's the kind of, that would be the only way I could see Ohio State not getting those kids, is if they're looking for a Notre Dame Stanford type fit.
Doug Nestor, obviously out of West Virginia, you crystal balled. You were right. He's coming. Already committed, only one in the class. Another offensive lineman. This one a little more interesting because he's from the state of Cincinnati. Zeke Correll, guard.
Yeah, so that's one where I think Notre Dame actually almost had him, and we talked about that before. Notre Dame switched offensive line coaches, which now has evened the playing field. After that, he went to Ohio State and had a great visit where he spent a lot of time with Michael Jordan, the offensive lineman, and felt like he really fit in. I like Ohio State, but I'm not ruling out anyone in his top 4. That family's cultured. Dad played at Kentucky. I think he had an older sibling that played in Kentucky too. Could be wrong there, but that band, like if they said the kid's capable of going anywhere because he can fit in anywhere. But Ohio State doing the right things and getting him around their guys, I like where Ohio State stands.
I really think, given his situation and where he's from, they need to get him. They got to plant the flag back in Cincinnati. They lost Kerry Combs, so let me see them do some work there. Then 2 guys we've talked about ad nauseum, Cade Stover and Zach Harrison.
Well, there was a time where I thought Cade Stover was on commit watch, and he hasn't done it yet. So I don't know. I mean, I'd be surprised if he went somewhere else, I guess, but other schools are recruiting to him. He's talking to him and going on visits. And Zach, we've talked about it before. He's not a done deal to Ohio State, but he's 15 minutes from Ohio State, so it's easy access for him to get to Ohio State. And so we'll see, I mean, that one's going to be a battle. I like Ohio State. Zach Harrison is kind of like the Nicholas Petit-Frere recruit in this class. Like, they're actually kind of similar in the way that I think they're going to handle the process. Good.
That one ended beautifully.
Zach may not go to signing day, but you know what I mean. Like their personalities, the way they are. They're Nicholas Petit-Frere may be a little more outgoing, at least to people he doesn't know. But I think that they're kind of similar guys. Maybe I'm seeing that wrong too.
One guy I want to talk about though before we sign off here, Max Duggan. I called him Dugan because I want to use the headline Max Duggan returns for those of you children of the 80s. But Max Duggan, quarterback, there's a crystal ball fever to Minnesota, yet he's in the mix for the Buckeyes. Kind of explain that to us.
Well, the crystal ball was on Nebraska, but I get the vibe that Minnesota's in the driver's seat right now. So he lives less than an hour, or roughly an hour away from Nebraska. Minnesota's doing a terrific job recruiting him. Coach Fleck leading the charge there, and Coach Soraka, their quarterback's coach, in regular contact. But he's going to take a visit to Ohio State here in a couple weeks, and they're very intrigued and exciting to get to Columbus. And I think that the opportunity to compete for a national championship is something that's important to Max. And obviously Ohio State is a place where you can get that. And so they're going to spend multiple days at Ohio State and sit in on meetings, go to a spring practice, and just get a sense on if that's a good feel for him. And then he's also going to take a visit down to TCU. And I think that TCU is a place that's also very intriguing to him. North Carolina's in there. He's going to go back to Minnesota, may go to Nebraska's spring game. This one will be over by early May, if I had to guess. And Ohio State, they're going to take their swing, and he's a good player, multi-sport athlete. His dad, coach's kid, his dad is his coach. His dad was a really good small school college quarterback. And so we'll see how it goes. And Ohio State's offered him, and they're going to get him on campus.
If he wants to win a national championship of the schools you named, I think we know which school he's going to pick. I'm a tad biased, but we appreciate Steve stopping by to help tell the future. When it comes to recruiting, it's often quite bright for the Buckeyes, and this time is no different. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Take care, guys. Appreciate it, Daniel.